these reports, they will then be in a position to interact and engage with the committee. The second point which we needed the acting minister in the presidency to brief us on is an update on the Director General of Public Works, who is, as you know, undergoing disciplinary processes, including but not limited to the matters around the Beitbridge border post. As you know, that there was 12 officials who were found who needed to be disciplined. The DG was the 13th one, and that matter was escalated to the relevant ministry and the presidency, because that's where DGs are, discipline matters are handled. So that's the update we needed. And then, of course, there's the ministerial advisor on that Beitbridge matter. But nonetheless, the acting minister sent correspondence, which I have circulated, which in summary I can say is speaking to the matter now having been taken to court. So I thought I should give that background first, indicating that, the presidency is not here. The acting minister has tabled an apology in that regard on that matter, an apology which is accompanied by the explanations which I've tried to summarize, but contained in the correspondence which is before the members. I did point out to the acting minister that my correspondence was sent on the 24th of June, and it places the committee in a very difficult position when on the eve of a meeting, then we start having discussions about these matters, which ordinarily we should be dealing with prior. And as always, we have tried our level best to be as understanding and as flexible and as accommodating as is necessary. But Parliament's time also has to be respected, and it places us in a very difficult position, an unfair one at that, when at last minute we then now have to sort of maneuver on discussions which could have been held prior. It is my firm held view that all the matters that the acting minister has raised could have been raised prior, and we could have been in a position to have actually handled the matters far more differently, and still ensured that the meeting proceeded in the presence of the presidency. So I thought, colleagues, I should summarize those matters as contained in the correspondence which has been circulated, because the final batch of that correspondence arrived this morning, and I felt that I should ensure that members actually receive it. So if the Hawks and the SIU and the NPA can just bear with us momentarily, and we will then get into their presentation and matters as well. But I thought I should table this matter, which befell us. The final point is that I did indicate to the acting minister in my correspondence that, having looked at the issues that she raised and the responses that I gave, I held that the meeting was in a position to proceed. I did not see that there was any matter which she had raised which would have seen us actually not meet. But in any case, that is the set of circumstances before us, and I see the hand of Honorable Dirks, and then we will proceed accordingly. To the Deputy Minister of Police and the colleagues of the law enforcement agencies, I will beg your indulgence momentarily as we try and bring this item to a logical conclusion, because it would have formed part of our meeting this morning as we looked at all the matters before you. Honorable Dirks, over to you.
Good morning, Chairperson, Deputy Minister, and colleagues. Good morning. My understanding is that, firstly, the report of the SIU is basically for information purposes for this committee, and also to give the public actually as just an update on the investigations However, the president will have to act on these reports. Now, I just want to. Yesterday, I believe that the presidency was looking for yourself, for myself, and you, Chairperson, to actually discuss the issue that the deputy minister, and the acting minister, and the presidency will not be available today. However, I asked them that they must speak to you, or they can speak to us jointly on this matter regarding the deputy minister not being available today. But I think that we can proceed, because we will basically take these reports from the SIU as just for information for the committee on where the investigations are currently. Thank you, Chairperson and colleagues.
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Dirks. Are there any other comments on this matter? All right, let's do this. Let's do this. Okay, Mam Tolashe.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, and our guest today. Chair, I think you have covered us very well on how we have concluded the communication between ourselves and the presidency. I think we agree with you fully. All what you said is covering us, and in future it must happen as such, so that as a committee we don't receive things on the eve of the actual sitting, because sometimes it really disorganizes us to an extent, having to organize other meetings or not being able to engage on the matters for the fact that we are awaiting from presidency to give us more or to indicate their take insofar as these matters are concerned. So I really want to say we agree with you how we have concluded the matter, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you, Mam Tolashe. Honorable Hadebe.
No, thanks, Chair. I've read the letters, 5 of them, and the response thereafter. The intention was to get the presidency to present what has been forwarded to them by the SIU. Seeing that they are not here, the way forward, will it be that we engage with the SIU or we adjourn the meeting? I'm not too sure of the way forward, given the fact that we have already received about 3 reports, and one of which it's 133 pages. So you will just guide us in our approach moving forward.
No, I hear you. I'll come back.
I'm trying my level best to maintain the level of calmness as per the response of these letters, Chair, so that
no, the interaction with the law enforcement agencies will proceed. Yeah, but I'll come back to that point now. Honorable Lees will be the last one on this matter. Mazambane, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to everyone else. Mr. Chairman, it's rather an unfortunate situation, and I have just finished another meeting, so I haven't had a chance to read the correspondence. So, we'll just reserve our judgment on this matter for now. Let's go along with your proposals and let's hear what you have to say about the presentations from the people who are present. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, colleagues. Well, let me just maybe walk along the lines of Honorable Hadebe. I'm trying to maintain the highest level of composure. It is still my firm held view, as communicated to the acting minister, that the meeting should have proceeded along the lines which we had determined. Because I fundamentally believe, as the committee does, that the SIU has briefed us on these matters, but they brief us on the findings, on the outcomes, and the recommendations. They are not the implementing agents of their own reports. And we have had this discussion for the longest of time now in terms of what happens to those reports. Do they gather dust, or are they actioned? And so, quite frankly, it's regrettable that the presidency is not here. I've noted the explanations about the DG of Public Works. I think the written explanation suffices. The matter will be in court on the 7th and 8th or the 8th and 9th of July. And so that is fine. But at the same time, we are dealing with the perennial corruption headache of PPE, maladministration and corruption. And the SIU has been tasked to investigate these matters. And we need to see that there's progress in the implementation of the reports. So it is, in my view, unfortunate and a missed opportunity on the part of the presidency to have subjected itself to parliamentary process for oversight. However, let's note the acting minister's commitment that when they've received the full bulk of the reports, they will be in a better position to brief the committee. So what I'll request, colleagues, is those reservations notwithstanding, that we proceed and afford the law enforcement agencies an opportunity to make their presentation to us. And we hold these presidency matters in abeyance, and there will be continued communication between ourselves and the presidency on it, with an expectation that that meeting will take place. There is certainly no doubt about that. That, quite frankly, it would be a dereliction of duty on our part if we don't pursue it. So I'm walking along the lines of Honorable Hadebe and maintaining a particular level of composure, because I'm just, no longer in the mood of, let me leave it at that. So let's note the correspondence, colleagues, and then proceed. And then we will afford the law enforcement agencies the opportunity now. Because the Deputy Minister of Police is here, I'm going to, as standard procedure, colleagues, as we do, afford him an opportunity if there are any remarks he would like to make, and then hand over to the heads of the institutions and agencies to present to us. Once the Deputy Minister is done, I will flag one area of concern, and then we will proceed. So, Baba Matal, may I hand over to you if there are any comments you'd like to make, and then we will dive right into the presentation.
No, thank you very much, Chair, and good morning to members of SCOPA, the delegation from the NPA and SIU, and the Lieutenant General Libea, head of the Hawks. We appreciate the opportunity, Chair, you have given us to come and account to Parliament through your committee with regard to the issues that you were discussing with your colleagues, the role that SIU play in the space that you are talking to, and how we come into the picture, because the work of the SIU is interrelated to the NPA and the South African Police stroke the Hawks. Their work will not be complete without it going through the circle that I've spoken to, because of the act that determines and governs how they do their work. So definitely from what we are presenting jointly with the NPA should be able to assist members of the committee to have an understanding and to have some of the questions that they have around the issues you spoke to being properly or put into context in terms of what is it that government is doing around the issues that are of concern to yourself. And I'm quite certain that out of this interaction, we will come out with a better understanding from what we had prior to the meeting. We, as always, appreciate interfacing with yourselves to account on the things that we do, because in any case, we get our original mandate from the National Assembly. So it's very appropriate that from time to time we appear before you and interact with regard to the issues that we are supposed to deal with. So we appreciate every moment or every opportunity that we get together with the operatives to come and account. And without any further ado, let me allow through you, Chair, if you may allow, request Lieutenant General Lebeya to introduce the team that he is with, together with the NPA and the SIU, because this is our joint work, despite the fact that the SIU have referred the matters and now they are being handled by ourselves and the NPA. I think it will be appropriate that we allow them, Chair, to introduce themselves. If you may allow, I will request Lieutenant General Lebeya, the head of the Hawks, to lead in that regard. And I think I must appropriately address him as Dr. Advocate Lieutenant General Lebeya, because these are his titles that he has earned. Thank you, Chair.
All right. No, thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister. We will hand over shortly to the Lieutenant General Dr. Advocate Lebeya shortly. I just want to draw the attention of the law enforcement agencies, General Lebeya, NDPP Patoi, and the head of unit of the SIU. I think this is going to be the last time we take joint reports as communicated before and ahead of this meeting. So I hope that be noted, because it had been communicated, and I hope that you just noted. The second point, colleagues, the head of unit of the SIU sent me correspondence indicating that, rising from our last meeting, there was questions around the digital vibes investigation and report, indicating that that report was handed over to the presidency on the 30th of June. And then subsequent to that, additional information had to be provided to the president on the 2nd of July. And so therefore, at this point in time, they are not in a position to engage on that matter until the flow of information has been completed. So I thought I should flag that it remains a matter that in one way or the other is alive, and they are still processing information, I suppose, and findings and additional things that are required on that matter. But I flag it for the purposes of ensuring that when we come to questions and interaction, members have got that background. I will circulate that correspondence shortly. All right, Babulbe, I'll hand over to you and you can introduce your team. I know that the NDPP is also here and the HOU is also here. So we welcome you and your teams who you are working with. And just one request from Parliament Communication, colleagues, if we can turn on our cameras for those of us who are in a position to do so when we are actually speaking. General, over to you. And I note on your presentation, there's the issue of mandate and so on and so forth. You can skip those slides and just dive into the substance of the presentation. And secondly, colleagues, I was advised this morning that in the presentations that we have, they are the names of persons who are accused, some of them whose matters may still be at initial stages. So the presentation that will be flighted will have those names redacted. But the delegation will explain that themselves. So just in case you see a presentation on screen, it's the same presentation, but it will be redacted. So the presentations you have has got the full information. Right, Babulbe, over to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning, and good morning, honorable members, the Deputy Minister of Police, my colleagues in the NPA, SIU, and in the SAPS, the DPCI. Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, I am accompanied by the acting Deputy National Head of the Hawks, which is Major General Munonobi. I'm also accompanied by the acting Divisional Commissioner, which is Major General Nkosi. And I also have got the brigadiers, Brigadier Magignani, who is responsible for serious economic offenses, as well as Brigadier Suraj Bali, who is assisting in administration together with Colonel Nonkeuse. I'm expecting to be also joined by Brigadier Basi, maybe might be struggling with the system. Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, the reason why I'm not having the Deputy National Head with me today is that she is recovering from COVID-related challenges, and she's also preparing the funeral of her husband, who is to be buried on Sunday based on a COVID-related death. And I must also indicate that the acting divisional commissioner is also hospitalized as a result of COVID. This has been a challenge that has been with us. So 25% of our members have been affected by COVID. And as I speak, the spouse of one of the generals participating here is in the ICU. So we have also lost 10 of our members during this COVID challenge based as a result of COVID matters. So that indicates some of the challenges that we have. I will, in my presentation, Chairperson, I will firstly indicate how the presentation is structured. And I'm not sure if I should first wait for my colleagues to introduce themselves before I move into how the presentation is structured.
Yeah, General, I'll request that they do, because it's a joint presentation, so that when we dive into it, we don't have to be held back by introductions. And on that score, if on behalf of the committee, we convey our deepest and most sincere condolences to your bereaved colleagues and to the institution itself, given the number of colleagues that you have lost. And we also, of course, wish everybody a speedy recovery. We are all very much alive to the prevailing challenges and the wave of the loss of life which besets the country. So our condolences as a committee, and I'm sure as Parliament as well, to the institutions and the bereaved families. If then the other heads of institutions may introduce themselves and their teams, and then we know who's here, and then the General may proceed.
If I may, Honourable Chair, thank you very much. Honourable Chair, honourable members, and the Deputy Minister of Police, my fellow heads of entities present. Honourable Chair, I'm joined today. In the interest of time, I won't call upon my team to introduce themselves, but I will introduce them. I'm joined by Deputy National Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Rodney de Kock, who is the head of the National Prosecution Service, under which the Specialized Commercial Crimes Unit sits. And he is accompanied by Advocate Lebo Baloy, who is the Special Director in the Specialized Commercial Crime Unit, and also Advocate Yanni Skitter, who is the NPS Ops person. I'm also joined by Deputy National Director Advocate Omar Rabaji, who is the head of the Asset Forfeiture Unit. She is joined by Advocate Priya Baseswa, who is the Special Director in the Asset Forfeiture Unit. and Advocate Peter Bezuidenhout, who is the deputy in the AFU, Deputy Director. I'm also joined by Advocate Anton du Plessis, who is the Deputy National Director, Head of Strategy, Operations and Compliance, under which, of course, the budget capability sits. And Mr. Tebogo Setabela, who is our acting CFO, is also present with us. Advocate Hermione Cronier, the head of the investigating directorate, is also present with us. I hope I haven't left anyone out, but that is the team that is relevant to today's presentation. Our head of the Legal Advisory Division, Deputy National Director, Advocate Nomvula Mohatla, is also present, as well as my Special Director, Advocate Mtunzi Mahaga. Colleagues, Honorable Chair and Honorable members, that is those are the NPA, that's the NPA team. I just want to also express our condolences to the General and to members of the Hawks. In the NPA, we have been similarly affected with almost the same number of, in terms of percentage of staff being affected. We have been engaging with the Department of Health for the NPA to be, one of, as essential services, to be moved up in terms of vaccinations. And we're hoping that will be rolled out very soon. Because it is having a serious impact on capacity and delivery. Chair, there will be a presentation, a joint presentation by which General Labia will lead. After General Labia, there will be a presentation on the work of the investigating directorate by Advocate Cronier with regard to the SIU matters that are in the space of the investigating directorate. Chair, I had some opening remarks to contextualize the presentation, and I'm not sure if the Chair will allow me to make those opening remarks, but I'm in your hands, Chair, because I think it's important that the presentations are contextualized somewhat. So I will take my guidance from you in that regard, Chair.
Right, thank you very much, NDPP. Similarly, we send our condolences to yourselves as well, and wish you and your team strength, and particularly just this very difficult time. Let's do this. Let's get General Labia to introduce the presentation, as he wanted to speak to structure. And then if there are any additional matters that you want to raise, you can share them amongst yourselves as you deem fit for the purposes of how the presentation should flow. But for now, can I get Advocate Mutibi to introduce his team so that we know who is here. So I think NDPP, let's do it in that way. Let's first get the introductory remarks by the head of the Hawks, and you can make those contextual remarks, and then we will proceed. Advocate Mutibi.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable members of the SCOPA. I also acknowledge Deputy Minister Matale, my colleagues, NDPP, and the head of the Hawks. Also, our colleagues from the Hawks and from NPA. I will introduce my colleagues. At the moment, Honorable Chair, I'm joined by the Chief National Investigating Officer, Mr. Lekgetho, who oversees, the national investigations, including assisting with the overseeing of the PPE investigations. I'm also joined by the Chief Legal Counsel, Dr. Wells. He is the person who is responsible for litigation matters and all of the aspects that related to civil litigation are handled by him. We've got also a colleague, I think Mr. Maharaj is in attendance. He is the Chief
Chief Portfolio Program Officer. He is responsible for drafting the proclamations, following up on the reports that have been submitted and the outcomes, whether they are being implemented or not. Honorable Chair, these are the members accompanying me from the center. In the provinces, well, I should also just indicate that Mr. Keza Khanyaho is also joining us from the center. He's the spokesperson for SIU. In the provinces, Chair, we've requested the provincial heads to log on. They'll possibly, should there be any question that relates to their provinces. In the interest of time, Chair, we'll not run through all of them because it's going to take a while. When they come in to address their matters, we'll introduce them accordingly. But just to record that we've asked them to log on and to be in the meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
All right, General Zabia and NDPP, we are in your hands. Thank you very much, HOU.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
General, I'm not sure if you want to start with the presentation, but before you do, I want to make a few introductory comments. But if you wish to do that first, I'm okay with that as well.
Thank you, NDPP. You can start.
Thank you very much, General. Thank you, Honorable Chair, for this opportunity. Chair, as we said, it is a joint presentation, but there's just one or two issues we wanted some clarity on and some guidance from the committee. To contextualize the presentation, we've been invited to account before this committee with regard to the cases that have been referred to us by the SIU. Chair, the invitation also mentions monthly reports with regard to the Steinhoff investigation. Just to let the chair know that we were not aware of this requirement to report monthly, and we've not been able to find that in the minutes of the SCOPA briefing session. So if we've missed anything in that regard, if the chair could please enlighten us on that. And monthly reporting will be very onerous, I should say. We're happy to account to Parliament, but I think we must allow law enforcement agencies to do their work. But I understand the urgency in this matter, and so does General Labia, and a lot of efforts going into getting the matter ready for court. Chair, the other issue was the invitation refers to the straightforward cases, and we were not sure about which cases the committee was referring to in that regard, and so we would need some guidance and clarity from the committee, which will be appreciated. Honourable Chair, honourable members, this presentation is and the accounting to Parliament is hugely important because we recognise that the SIU is investigating a number of really important cases for the country, and we need to ensure that as law enforcement, we're able to take those cases forward. In the NPA, we had a workshop just in March looking at delivery for impact and corruption. In fact, not surprisingly, addressing corruption and dealing with these cases quickly was the top priority. Chair, in addition to capacity and capacitating the NPA, I think it's important for the committee and for colleagues to understand that capacitation still remains a challenge in as much as there are many green shoots, let's put it that way. There have been some very good progress recently with regard to certain cases, but we are, and a lot of organization going on between collaboration is good in some instances, needs improvement in others. So there's lots of good work happening, but we are still moving incrementally. And if we want to move exponentially, we really need to look at the capacitation issues, particularly in the asset forfeiture space. And I want to highlight this, and of course, the investigating directorate as well, which have similar challenges. But one of the challenges in asset recovery, and this is with all the SIU cases as well, we've got to look at bringing back the money. And one of the challenges there is about the investigative capacity in the asset forfeiture unit. Now, as the committee may not know, that the NPA actually does not hire investigators. We've been able to hire investigators on contract. But that is a huge challenge that we're facing both in the directorate and in asset forfeiture unit. What we've identified as a potential game changer with regard to asset recovery is a co-location of investigators from the DPCI together with our asset forfeiture professionals. This General Libya, Advocate Rabaji, and I have agreed on at the high level, but regrettably, this is taking a bit long for implementation. And General, I think we really need to move on this because that we think will be potentially a game changer. The forensic capabilities still remains a huge challenge in law enforcement. And we are looking to create a forensic capability within government. But this is also, it's not going to be overnight. So those are the kinds of skills and capabilities that we need in the NPA are extremely difficult to procure. So we've developed a scarce skills framework, which will help us in this regard. But I think what is important for me and I'm highlighting asset forfeiture because it's so important for us to bring back the money, particularly from foreign jurisdictions. And so we are looking at even engaging with the private sector abroad in line with Treasury regulations to see how we can build on partnerships to make sure that we're able to bring back as much of the money as we can get. Within the ACTT space, which is where outside of the directorate, the investigating directorate, which General Libya will talk to, most of the cases relating to the SIU are being managed. We've recognized that there are challenges in the ACTT space relating to how we collaborate, and we need to collaborate better with regard to common and joint measures and looking at having common goals at the end of the day as law enforcement. There will be an ACTT retreat very soon, which we will discuss next week at the meeting, so that we can really look at how collaboration amongst law enforcement, which is good, but really can be a lot better. So how can we improve that so that we can, at the end of the day, deliver as a collective? So the SIU referrals just form one small part of this massive pie with regard to corruption. And so all of that will be dealt with. I also want to say, Chair, and to the extent that SCOPA can assist, we really need to, as government, the issue of the single entity is hugely important. And we can get some clarity from and guidance and movement from our political principles with regard to where we're moving on that, I think will really help the country move forward. So, Chair, those are just a few introductory remarks on my part, and I will hand over to General Libya to manage the presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, NDPP. General?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. Just to indicate the structure of the presentation, I'm not sure if it is visible on the screen, Chairperson.
Yes, it has come up, General. I'm sure colleagues will all find.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. And then the structure of the presentation will be that some of the slide number 1 up to 14 was dealing with just the background and the like. But as the Chairperson have indicated, I will not deal with slide 1 up to slide 8 because it deals with the mandate that the Honorable Chairperson have indicated that we shouldn't be dealing with that. Which means that I will touch on slide number 9 up to slide number 14. And then slide number 15 to slide number 126 are dealing with the details of the cases. Normally, if I were to spend 1 minute on each slide, it may take 2 hours. So I need to be finding a better way of moving quickly on this if I have to go through all the slides. And then slide number 127 will just summarily talk about the matters that are in the Fusion Center. These matters in the Fusion Center, some come from the SIU, but some are not coming from the SIU. They have been referred directly either by the departments or by the complainant or something that we may have picked on the media space. Slide number 128 will talk to the summary of how the NPA have interpreted the matters that have been referred from the SIU. And then slide number 129 up to 132 are some of the highlights of the cases that have been dealt with. And then the last portion will be a separate presentation dealing with the Steinhoff matter. So that is how the presentation has been structured, Honorable Chairperson. We have noted the request that was sent later that certain questions needed to be answered. We have done that on a separate presentation, which unfortunately we have been caught by time, could not finalize everything, but we have that. But it worries us on the some of the matters, how we will be responding to that. Maybe at some stage we might be given an opportunity to indicate the challenges. Some of them, the suspect will know that we are about to be pouncing on them. So it is an area that is slightly dicey. Some of them tend to reveal the method of investigation. It may not be seen in that light, but unconsciously it reveals how we conduct the investigation. And then because this is a public platform, some of the potential criminals become aware that this is how the police do the investigation. So next time we mustn't do it in that way. So as I've indicated, Honorable Chairperson, I'm going to then move to the slide number 9.
General.
Yes, sir.
I think we quite appreciate the sensitivity of the work that you do. And so I think that we are not going to be in a position, or rather would not want to be in a position where we compromise investigations. And I'm sure colleagues will appreciate that as well. Because colleagues have got the presentation in its entirety, you may then present on the high-level aspects and have due regard for issues which are sensitive. And that is why I was drawing the attention of colleagues that the office of the NPA called this morning, indicating that certain aspects would be redacted on the presentation. And that's because we fully understand that we are in a sensitive space. So indicate to us on those areas when you get to them, and those need not be dealt with in the extensive nature and manner that we ordinarily do. I think that consideration on our part is very much alive because we do not want botched investigations in the end. And worst of all, for that to come back to have been because of Parliament or a presentation to Parliament. So exercise that due care and due caution as you deem fit. And if there's a need, colleagues will come back to areas and we'll find a way on how to move for that. We're not really wanting to get into the intricate nature and space of how you move and so on. All we want is outcomes and impact, successful prosecutions and recoveries of state losses. So that's where we are. So please exercise that due regard as well. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Chairperson, in this one is just an indication of the workload that we are having as the DPCI. As on the 31st of March this year, we had more than 20,000 cases. These matters have got more than 76,000 charges, which means that it's nearly more than 76 case docket, if one was to call it in that language. Our fixed establishment, we are working on 47% capacity, which means that we still need 53% to be where we would like to be. And this currently, this capacity of ours constitute 1.39% of what the SAPS as an organization have. So it's the tiny portion that we are talking about. We are currently in the process of capacitating this. I must say that we already signed 274, which is busy now at the mother body to check on the individuals that we intend to be appointing. We are also considering again to add on contract workers in addition to what have started on the 1st of April. These are obviously assisting us in dealing with the TRC matters, the municipalities and other areas. We have also finalized the selection of a head of the forensic accounting investigation component, a chartered accountant, but we are waiting for the finalization of vetting, which at this stage there is still in the final stages by our crime intelligence, so that when we appoint a person with security clearance. We know that we are losing some of our members on a daily basis. We assist also in other environment. Honorable Chairperson, we will know that we are assisting the ID. We have allowed 15 of our members to be operating in the ID space. And then we have also lost 9 of our members who joined the ID on a permanent basis. So this is an area where, while we are building, we are also losing on others. That's why the growth is slow. But the DPCI is an engine of the criminal justice machinery on national priority offenses. And the Chairperson, if it was to cease, the machinery will come to an end. So we are working on this to ensure that even in the AFU, we assist in those investigations. I'm not going to then deal with the nitty-gritties of some of the aspects, but the NDPP shall have indicated that the AFU is also relying on the investigators from the DPCI, and she also highlighted on the co-location that we are working on. The DPCI does not have accommodation, but we are working to move into the space of the NPA in order that we can operate from the same location. As we shall have indicated, the COVID have played a critical role in our investigation, our capacity, because we have got to be isolating, quarantining, doing the contamination. Nearly every day there is the contamination that have to take place in the offices all over. And we try the rotation of staff, and because of the office capacity, both of these tend to delay the work that we are doing. And some of the people that we meet, some of them will be telling you that they are in quarantine, we have to postpone. And which I think when it comes to effecting arrest, there is no way that you do social distancing. You shall have to be taking the fingerprints and the like. So some of these things delay the investigation. So, but we can say that we are, as the NPA, the NDPP have indicated, the government is working on a way of getting a forensic investigation capacity. A decision has been taken at the ACTT principals to roll out the fusion center model in the provinces. This has already been done nationally. And then the model is being implemented, and then we are comfortable that the direction from national level is being followed. So with regard to the National Treasury instructions that are being directed to the different departments, we often find that some of the departments are reluctant in cooperation, which we end up saving Section 205 of the Criminal Procedure Act to compel them to provide the information timeously. The National Treasury is also indicating that they are in the final stages of having the forensic auditors appointed. So once that is done, it will be easier for us to have the chartered accountants appointed in the investigations that we are doing. We also have revived the anti-corruption task team case management committee, which have ensured that the new cases are being identified and included. I must say that we have so far now more than 262 cases in the anti-corruption task team space. Those are prioritized matters. 36 of these were included from March this year up to the end of June. But it's just an indication that we have revived that case management committee. I must also indicate that there is a closer working relationship that we constantly work on to improve that the cooperation is enhanced, and the NDPP shall have also indicated that we will be embarking on a work session so that we can enhance those areas that we are still lacking. The progress in this report, Honorable Chairperson, that comes from the SIU referral to the NPA and to the DPCI, we will be reporting on 131 active cases. We did not include those that shall have been finalized and the like. And then, so these are matters that have been reported.
All right, there we go. The Standing Committee on Public Accounts getting an update from the Special Investigations Unit on all its reports. And this includes the investigation on the awarding of the multi-million rand Digital Vibes Communications contract. We've just seen the Scopa chairperson, Mkhuleko Hlengwa, blasting presidency authorities for their no-show and their sloppiness in unveiling the necessary information. Now, the National Director